Welcome to She's Evolving. I'm Elena, a medical endocrinologist, and for over 20 years I have dedicated my career to understanding the intricate dance of hormones in the female body. But beyond the white coat, I am a woman who, like many of you, started noticing that the reflection in the mirror was beginning to tell a different story than the one I felt inside. Today, we are diving deep into a topic that is often whispered about in hushed tones or discussed with fear and misinformation: the body after 40, and specifically hormone replacement therapy. We're going to talk about myths, truths, and the choices that allow us to reclaim our narratives. And I'm Julia, a clinical psychologist. My work focuses on the emotional landscape of the mature woman, helping women navigate the shifts in identity, self-esteem, and relationships that come when our biology starts to transition. If you've ever woken up at 3 in the morning, drenched in sweat, wondering where your patience went, or looked at your changing shape and thought, "Who is this woman I'm becoming?" then you are exactly where you need to be. This episode is an invitation to stop fighting against yourself and start listening to what your body is trying to say. Before we dive into our stories, if you find value in this conversation, please follow our podcast and share this episode with a friend. We are building a community of women who choose to evolve, not just age. That's so important, Julia, because for the longest time, the narrative around menopause and hormonal shifts was one of decline, like we were a sunset fading into darkness. But what if it's actually a transformation, a second act?
Exactly, a rebranding of the self. But to get there, we have to be honest about the messy parts. Elena, let's get personal for a moment. You're the expert, the one people go to for answers. But I remember a coffee we had a few years ago where you looked at me and said, "Julia, I think I'm losing my mind." Oh, I remember that day vividly. It was a Tuesday. I was at a medical conference of all places, surrounded by colleagues. I was presenting a paper on metabolic health, and suddenly, it felt like someone had turned a heater on right under my skin. My heart started racing, my palms were sweaty, and for the first time in my life, I forgot the word for insulin. I felt like my body had betrayed me in front of everyone. I went back to my hotel room and cried. I felt fragile and visible and honestly a bit terrified. Even with all my medical knowledge, the experience of it was a total shock to my system. It's that feeling of betrayal that I hear so often in my office. For me, it wasn't a sudden flash. It was a slow, creeping fog. I started feeling a sense of irritability that I couldn't explain. My children would leave a dish in the sink, and I would feel a rage that was entirely disproportionate to the event. Then came the invisibility. I'd walk into a store or a social gathering and feel like I had disappeared. My body was changing, my waistline was softening, my skin felt different, and I felt like I was losing the Julia I had known for 5 decades. It's a mourning process, isn't it?
It absolutely is. We are mourning the younger self while trying to figure out who the new self is. And physiologically, what's happening is that our hormonal symphony is losing its conductor. After 40, the production of estrogen and progesterone begins to fluctuate wildly before it eventually drops. These aren't just reproductive hormones, they are systemic. They affect our brain, our bones, our heart, and our skin. When they start to decline, it's like the electricity in a house is flickering. Some lights go out, the appliances start making weird noises, and the temperature control breaks. And when the house starts acting up, the mind follows. I see so many women who think they are developing depression or anxiety for the first time in their lives. They don't realize that their low mood or their sudden lack of confidence is tied to that flickering electricity. They feel broken. They think, maybe I'm just not attractive anymore, or maybe I'm just old and cranky now. That's the danger of the grin and bear it culture. We've been told for generations that this is just the change, and we have to suffer through it. But as an endocrinologist, I want to be very clear. Suffering is not a requirement of womanhood. When we talk about hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, we are talking about restoring some of that balance. But there is so much fear around it. Let's talk about that fear. Because whenever I mention to a client that they might want to talk to a doctor about hormones, they often recoil. They say, "But Julia, doesn't that cause cancer? Isn't it dangerous?"
This is the biggest myth we have to dismantle. Much of that fear stems from a study back in 2002 called the Women's Health Initiative.
It was halted early and reported in a way that caused global panic. But decades of follow-up research have shown a much more nuanced picture. For most healthy women under 60 or within 10 years of the onset of menopause, the benefits of HRT, protecting heart health, bone density, and cognitive function, far outweigh the risks. It's not a one-size-fits-all pill. It's about precision medicine. It's about looking at a woman's family history, her lifestyle, and her specific symptoms.
I love that you use the term precision, because emotionally, every woman's journey is also unique. Some women feel the loss of libido most acutely. For others, it's the brain fog that makes them feel like they can't do their jobs anymore. Can you explain why the brain fog happens? Because that's the one that really scares my high-achieving clients.
Oh, the brain fog is real and it's frustrating. Estrogen is actually a fuel for the brain. It helps with glucose metabolism in the brain cells. When estrogen levels drop, the brain is essentially running on low batteries. This affects the hippocampus, which is the center for memory and word finding. So when you can't find your car keys or you forget the name of your neighbor, it's not dementia. It's often just a hormonal dip. When we stabilize those levels, the lights often come back on. Women tell me all the time, "Elena, I feel like myself again. I can think again. I feel like myself again." That's the goal, isn't it? But myself doesn't mean 20-year-old me. It means the evolved version. I often talk to women about the myth of the disappearing libido. They think that once they hit 50, sex is over. They feel guilty, they feel disconnected from their partners. Elena, what's the medical truth there?
The truth is that libido is complex. Yes, the drop in testosterone and estrogen can lead to physical changes, like vaginal dryness or less sensitivity, which makes sex uncomfortable or even painful. And if it hurts, your brain is going to stop wanting it. That's a biological protection. But there are solutions. Localized estrogen, systemic HRT, and even lifestyle changes can restore the physical comfort. However, as you always say, Julia, the biggest sex organ is the brain. Exactly. If you don't feel good in your skin, if you feel like your body is an enemy, you're not going to want to be intimate. I tell my patients that we have to remap pleasure. It might not look like it did at 25, but it can be deeper, more conscious, and more connected. It requires communication. You have to tell your partner, "Hey, my body is changing and I need us to explore this new landscape together." It's about vulnerability. And that vulnerability is a strength. Another myth I want to tackle is the idea that HRT is unnatural. People say, "I want to do it the natural way." And I always ask, what does natural mean to you? If you have a thyroid deficiency, you take thyroid hormone. If you are diabetic, you take insulin. These are natural substances your body is no longer producing in the right amounts. Bioidentical hormones are structurally identical to what your ovaries used to make. Using science to maintain your quality of life is, in my opinion, the most self-respecting thing you can do. It's about choices. Information leads to conscious decisions. I see women who spend thousands of dollars on anti-aging creams, but are terrified of a hormone patch that could actually protect their bones from breaking in 20 years. We've been conditioned to focus on the surface, but the real work is happening deep inside.
The belly. I've had women cry in my office because their favorite jeans don't fit, even though they are eating the same as they always have. It's metabolic. As estrogen drops, the body becomes more insulin resistant, and it starts to store fat around the organs, the visceral fat, as a way to try and produce a form of estrogen. It's actually the body trying to help you, but in a way that we don't like. The answer isn't eat less and run more. In fact, excessive cardio can raise cortisol, which makes the belly fat even worse. We need to focus on muscle. Strength training is the fountain of youth for women over 40. We need to eat more protein and focus on sleep. Sleep is when our hormones recalibrate. If you aren't sleeping because of hot flashes, your weight will stay stuck. It's all connected.
It's a holistic web, and this is where the psychology comes in. If you are stressed, your cortisol is high. If your cortisol is high, your hormones are even more imbalanced. We have to learn to say no. We have to learn to prioritize our rest. Many women at this age are the sandwich generation, caring for aging parents and growing children while trying to maintain a career. We are exhausted, and that exhaustion amplifies every menopausal symptom. So true. I often tell my patients that their hormonal transition is a loud alarm clock.
It's telling them that the way they lived their 30s, the constant rushing, the self-neglect, is no longer sustainable. The body is demanding a new way of being.
I love that. It's not a breakdown, it's a demand for a better life. Elena, we have a question from a listener that I think fits perfectly here. Sandra, 48, asks, I'm terrified of starting HRT because my mother had breast cancer, but I can't sleep. I'm depressed and I feel like I'm losing my job because I can't concentrate. Am I just stuck? Sandra, first of all, I hear you. You are not stuck. Having a family history of breast cancer does not automatically disqualify you from HRT. It means we have to be more careful. We look at the type of cancer your mother had, your own screenings, and we might choose a transdermal patch through the skin instead of a pill, which has a different risk profile. There are also non-hormonal options that can help with the brain fog and the hot flashes. The most important thing is to find a provider who doesn't just dismiss you. Don't accept it's just part of aging as an answer. You deserve to function. And Sandra, from a psychological perspective, the stress of losing your life to these symptoms is also a health risk. Chronic stress and depression have their own physical tolls. Choosing to seek help is an act of self-preservation. You are worth the effort it takes to find the right solution. We've covered so much today, and yet it feels like we've just scratched the surface. We've talked about the betrayal of the body, the reality of the brain fog, the dismantling of the WHI study fears, and the importance of muscle and sleep. And we've talked about the emotional necessity of mourning the old self to make room for the new one. As we wrap up, Elena, what is one thing you want every woman listening to take away?
I want you to know that your body is not failing you. It is transitioning, and you have the right to use every tool available, science, nutrition, movement, and community, to make this transition one of power rather than pain. Your history, your symptoms, and your goals matter. You are the CEO of your own health. And my message is this: you are not alone. The shame and the silence stop here. When we share our stories, we take the power back from the invisibility. Your value is not tied to your reproductive status. You are evolving into a version of yourself that is wiser, more focused, and more unapologetic. If this conversation spoke to you, please share it. Send it to your sister, your best friend, or that colleague you saw struggling the other day. Let's start the conversation. Thank you for being part of She's Evolving. We are so proud to be on this journey with you. Keep showing up for yourself. See you in the next episode. Your new beginning starts now.
That distinction is so important. It's about shifting the narrative from "this medication will change me" to "this medication will help me feel like myself again." And speaking of feeling like ourselves, we can't talk about myths without addressing the mood factor. I hear women saying, "I'm just a monster now," or "I've lost my spark and hormones won't bring it back. I'm just getting old and bitter." There's this myth that depression or irritability in midlife is just a character flaw or a natural consequence of aging that we have to endure. Oh, I see that spark go out so often. And it's not because these women are bitter. It's physiological. Our brains are packed with estrogen receptors. When those receptors aren't being fired up, the production of serotonin and dopamine, our feel-good chemicals, takes a hit. This isn't just moodiness. It can be a profound sense of anxiety or a flat, gray feeling where joy used to be. When we address the hormonal deficiency, the fog often lifts. It's like turning the lights back on in a house that's been dark for months. I love that image, turning the lights back on, because when the lights are off, it's very hard to do the psychological work. It's hard to work on your marriage, your career, or your self-esteem when you're physically exhausted and chemically depleted. I always tell my patients that HRT isn't a magic pill that solves all your life problems, but it provides the floor, the stable ground you need to stand on so you can actually deal with those problems. It's the difference between trying to climb a mountain in a blizzard versus climbing it on a clear day. The mountain is still there, but you can finally see the path.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the biggest myths of all, the idea that you have to wait until your symptoms are unbearable before you seek help. I see women who have been suffering for 5 years, not sleeping, having 50 hot flashes a day, and they say, "I thought I just had to tough it out." Julia, why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we think suffering is a badge of honor?
It's deeply cultural, Elena. We've been conditioned to believe that a woman's role is to endure. From puberty to childbirth and now to menopause, there's this unspoken rule that natural means suffering in silence. We've been taught that our needs come last. But choosing to treat your symptoms isn't cheating at aging. It's choosing quality of life. It's choosing to be present for your own life. I think we need to give ourselves permission to say, I don't want to just survive this transition. I want to thrive through it.
Thriving is the perfect word, and thriving means making informed choices. We've talked about the risks, the benefits, and the myths, but at the end of the day, the choice to start HRT or not is a deeply personal one. It's about looking at your family history, your current health, your symptoms, and your goals for the next 30 or 40 years. Because we aren't just talking about the now, we're talking about your bone density at 80, your heart health at 70, and your brain health for the rest of your life. And it's about respecting your own story. Some women will choose the medical route and feel empowered by it. Others, for various medical or personal reasons, will choose a different path: lifestyle changes, herbal support, or simply radical acceptance. The point is that the choice should be yours, made with clear information, not out of fear or misinformation. As we start to wrap up this conversation, I want to emphasize that if you're listening to this and you feel off, trust your gut. You know your body better than any textbook. If you feel like your pilot light has gone out, don't let anyone tell you it's just part of getting older and that you should just deal with it. Reach out to a professional who actually listens to women, who stays updated on the research, and who sees you as a whole person, not just a collection of symptoms. This transition we're in, this evolving, as we call it on the show, it's not a decline. It's a shedding of skin. It's a time where we can finally stop living for everyone else and start asking, what do I need? Your body is changing, yes, but your soul is expanding. This is the time to gather your tools, whether that's hormone therapy, therapy with a psychologist, a new exercise routine, or a new creative passion.
I've seen so many women, once they get their hormones balanced and their health on track, suddenly start businesses, travel the world, or finally set the boundaries they've needed for years. There is so much power on the other side of this transition. Hormone replacement is just one tool in the kit, but for many, it's the key that unlocks the door. It's been such an enlightening talk, Elena. I think we've cleared away a lot of the cobwebs today. To everyone listening, your journey is unique. Your body is a map of everything you've survived and everything you've celebrated. Treat it with the kindness and the science it deserves. Absolutely. Remember, She's Evolving isn't just a title, it's a promise. You are not the same woman you were at 20, and that is a beautiful thing. You have more wisdom, more depth, and more to give than ever before. Don't let hormonal imbalances rob you of this incredible stage of your life. If this episode resonated with you, if it made you feel a little less alone or a little more empowered, please share it. Send it to that friend who's been struggling with sleep, or your sister who's feeling invisible. Let's start these conversations in our living rooms and over coffee. The more we talk, the less power the myths have over us. Thank you for being with us today. It's an honor to walk this path with you. We'll be back next week with more honest conversations about health, heart, and the art of growing older with power. Stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay kind to yourself. You are doing a great job navigating this new terrain. We're right here with you. Until next time, keep evolving. See you in the next episode. Take care of your body, and it will take care of you. Goodbye for now.